Good morning from the Nature Company. Today I was out here in the garden about to get my hands dirty and then realized perhaps you'd be interested in seeing what we were up to today. It's the Cymbidium Aussie Midnight that we're going to be repotting. It's outgrown its pot. The roots are extending out the outside. It's got all this grass that's been growing in amongst it. The reason we're doing it now in autumn is the seasons being a bit strange and the weather not being normal. We had a second set of flowering that happened in about midsummer, which is a bit unusual. Usually it's the winter to spring flowering, and now we had a summer bloom as well. So we had two sets of flowers. So we're going to be in and dividing this guy up. We don't pot up quite the same way as we do with the other Cymbidium. We've got a different mix that we use. We're going to be using the lacquer, perlite, and some fine or small grade bark. This is to give it the good draining mix that it needs. A warm to intermediate flowering Cymbidium, so it does brilliantly in our climate here in the subtropics. We leave it out, it gets about half day sun in spring and summer, and then a couple of extra hours sun in the autumn and winter. It does like lots of light, and this is the full sunlight that it gets. Okay, we'll get to the dividing first, and then we'll show you the different percentages that we'll use of the ingredients to produce the potting mix. Okay, so what we're going to do first is just sanitize, clean away some of the mess so you can see what we're dealing with here. See here's some of the old flower spikes that just came up in summer. Okay. Just using some garden scissors, we're going to cut away the pot. You can see how tightly root bound it is with all the roots coming out the sides of the pot even. Not the easiest task. Now we see how the roots had come out the bottom of the pot as well. These are already dried up and finished. It would probably have been easier if I'd have used a Stanley knife, but I didn't have one available today. A box cutter. Okay, there we can see we can just peel away the old pot now. And there we have a complete mess of roots with the grass roots here. So we're going to have to do a bit of cutting of the root volume as well to open this out. Okay, I'm going to have to do something I don't usually do with this. I'm going to go grab a bread knife and we're going to have a feast. Okay, the kitchen's not very happy with me now, but there we go. So we're looking for a central point where we can divide this basically in half. I think that's going to be the easiest. So there we go. There's a gap where no new growth is coming out of. So we'll put our knife in there. And cut our way through. And then we'll do our best to split it apart. All the perlite and the previous bark that was in here has been decomposed and completely taken over by root volume, but no worries, we'll get it to grow again beautifully. So now we're just going to keep cutting through until we can separate these parts apart without causing too much damage. I prefer pulling because it generally shows where the weakest point is instead of just cutting, and then you can be cutting all sorts of things off apart that you don't really want to. But in cases where you're not strong enough to pull it apart, just get in with your knife and try gently cut where you can. See, it's pulling it apart nicely into the separate pieces. Okay, and you notice with this there are very few back bulbs that don't have leaves. This type of Cymbidium generally keeps its leaves for a lot longer than a lot of the other Cymbidiums, so you'll end up with a fuller looking plant for longer. Okay, cleaning out these back bulbs helps just making it easier to maneuver your way around through the balance of the plant. Okay, I'm going to be cutting this up into smaller pieces than I'd ideally like to try and get rid of all the grass roots that have settled all their way through. Otherwise it will just keep growing in all the new pots that we plant. So we're just seeing where the gap is, putting our bread knife through the center of it again, trying to find the point where the bulbs are joined, just to get through them. Okay, I really don't want to break it any further apart than this, because here we have 4 pseudobulbs, and that's going to give the plant a good start. So I'm just going to have to carefully go through, try and remove all the grass shoots, all the excess material, all the dead roots, and clean it up so it can be repotted. Here we can still divide this further, see where it's loose already, try and pry the roots apart. There we go. So there's a nice solid looking plant. This will probably even flower in the next spring season. We've got some good shoots and some back bulbs to give them the strength they need. Cymbidiums often do like to sulk for a year after they've been repotted, but if you give them enough of a plant volume, they can recover quite well. Their root growth is generally fairly vigorous, so we can keep the root growth going, giving us a strong, healthy plant. Okay, I wanted to keep a large mother plant, but still I think I can take this side off and still have a better growing plant, because all of the shoots that are growing off the inner part of this side of the plant are coming this way, and then this is all in the way. So if we remove this section here, this plant can keep growing this way and that way. So we can just see that they are pretty much separated. There we go. That's going to give us 2 fair sized plants, and we've got a few spare. This I'm not going to do any more than just cleaning that up a little bit like that. and that's going to go straight into a nice big size pot to produce another big size mother plant. Okay, now the mix we're going to be potting these Aussie Midnight Cymbidiums into is 1/3 of this lacquer, 2/3 of this fairly fine pine bark, and then we'll sprinkle in the perlite. Just using a nice big bowl to mix it all in so that we get a fairly even mix. Okay, so we've mixed that in nicely. We'll just put in some of our perlite now. Okay, we're looking for a nice light aerated mix. Okay, so with our media we've got the fine bark, which provides a light aerated media that will hold a bit of moisture. We have the lacquer that helps move the water or the moisture around the media, and its EC component helps keep the nutrients available to the plant instead of it just washing straight through. And of course the perlite is there to hold the moisture, and it also helps hold the nutrients as well. So this is a good mix for them so that they drain quickly. These aren't water loving orchids, so we need to make sure that they are in a potting medium that will suit them and their root growth. We're going to be using these fairly large pots. This is a 17 centimeter pot to plant up these pieces. Okay, we see we don't have terribly much root volume, so what we can start off by doing, just fill a bit of media into the bottom of this pot. It will help keep it a little bit stable. Make sure we get some perlite in there too. Take our plant, settle it in, and just fill up around it. Okay, the one nice thing about this mix is it's a fairly stable mix. It's not going to decompose quickly, and also it allows your plant to stand up fairly rigidly without too much support. If you start finding it falling over without all that root volume, then you can just naturally stake it. These, because our media is fairly dry, we are going to give them a good watering and then let them rest from there. We don't feed our cymbidiums at this point. For one, they're going into the winter season, so they will go into a bit of a semi-hibernation, and they'll just rest and relax. The slightly cooler evening temperatures will start to force the little flower buds to be produced down near the bottom of the pseudobulbs, and these will produce all our beautiful flowers for us. Also, we're not going to be overwatering these during the winter period either, even though they have been repotted. If we give them this little bit of a shock, they go into survival mode, forcing roots to be produced. As I said previously, their roots can be quite vigorous growers, and your plant will be rooted in no time. And as I said, the larger plants can still reflower even though they have gone through this transplant shock. Beautiful blooms, either late winter, but more likely here by us in early spring, and then the flowers actually last for a long time on the plant. Thank you for watching, and if you find any of the information in this video helpful, please give us a thumbs up, like the video, subscribe, and share with all your friends.